here at holyhillsradio.com. Listen, tonight is gonna be off the charts. Last week was a treat. Last week was a blessing. We couldn't do nothing else but just push this on and really keep talking about the issue at hand. And I have in the studio with me, I have Dr. Jones all the way from Columbus, Ohio. Dr. Jones.
Hey, how you doing? It's good to be here. It's good to be back.
Last week, Dr. Jones was actually she was on a conference line, and this week she decided to come in and bless us with her presence. So I'm excited. First time face to face, and we got my boy Maurice Good all the way from Brooklyn, New York. Maurice.
Hey, folks, good to be with you once again.
Wow. And last week we talked about what the whole Freddie Gray thing and what's going on down there in Baltimore. We talked about issues on how the media wanted us to see what they wanted us to see, if you will. And Dr. Jones just really educated us on just the particulars and so forth in regards to the legalities and just the process of thought and things of that nature, and really took us in. So I'm going to step back for a minute. Dr. Jones, come on. I know you got something.
Well, okay. So, of course, you all should have heard by now that all 6 officers were charged.
Right.
So, that was good. But, had that probably wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the rioting and the people who were upset and the protests and the demonstrations and all of that, to just simply bring awareness to the case. So now that we got the awareness to the case, we had Marilyn Mosby give that excellent speech or statement about what was going on, some of the findings and this and that, and why they decided to charge all 6 officers. Now we got to move to what's next.
Right.
That's the important piece here. And what's next is a conviction, because here's the thing. The officers that beat up Rodney King, they were charged, but they were never convicted. And so that's the next step. And whether or not there is enough evidence to convict, that is still up for discussion. And, I'm excited to see what happens with that.
And that can play in court for a long time.
It can. And so, you got what kind of evidence? We don't know the evidence. And, to make sure that they maintain the integrity of the case, they can't release that information as of right now. And so this is going to be interesting to actually see how all of this plays out. And the police union have already stepped up and they say, something to the extent of get out while you have the chance or something like that to Marilyn Mosby. So, I'm rooting for her. And I think that it's going to be interesting. And what's also interesting is she comes from a long line of law enforcement in her family.
Wow.
And so for her to be prosecuting police officers, this is going to play out pretty interesting here.
Wow. And can we say this is a race thing still? Since there's, I think it was 2 or 3 African-American officers involved in this, or is it just kind of a cop versus the people thing?
I think this is a case of police brutality, corrupt cops, a little bit of misuse of power and authority, some issues with police discretion, coupled with some issues of racism. Even if the officers are African American, I think there were a couple of them that were African American. What I have learned from working with police officers and people in law enforcement who are of color is that they still have internal struggles within the department, and so they have to try to prove themselves. And so in order to do that, sometimes they do things that they shouldn't be doing, and that is excessive force and brutality, just to prove that they belong. And so they can be a part of that whole blue code, that clique or whatever within law enforcement. So I think it's several of those factors all together that created this situation.
Wow. And, before we go too far in this, what about the mother? I mean, just really get Maurice, the mother slapping her son upside the head. I mean, that was my mom. What happened to moms like that?
All right, so I'll let Maurice go first because I didn't particularly like that video. So I'm gonna let y'all speak a piece, and then I'm gonna chime in.
Okay. Maurice, what's going on, man?
One, like I said, policy changes happen. You know, and the sister, she's been, you know, some people like what they saw, the demonstration. Some people aren't in favor of it. They think it sends the wrong message. You know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm like, it's hard for me to say, you know, because as you know, she's a mom. She's a single mother of 6 children, and this kid is her only male child.
Wow.
And in a city where male children of color are just gunned down, not just by the police, but by each other. You know, she's afraid. This woman's terrified of losing her only son. And so in her emotion, you know, she did what she did. You know, so it's hard for me to say, you know, to speak to what she did. I mean, I know I have a 6-year-old, and if he, you know, when he turns 16 and he decides that he's going to be part of a demonstration, you know, I may jack him up, grab him by the collar, like, listen, because as a parent, you're fearful for your child. You do not want to bury your child. You know, the parent's role, you know, they say that children should bury their parents, are supposed to bury their parents, not the other way around. And that's what we've been seeing way too much of, parents burying their children. And so that's where I think she was coming from.
Wow. Okay. Dr. Jones.
All right. So when I saw the video, and immediately as soon as I saw it, I just didn't like it.
Okay.
And for several reasons. But I think one of the biggest was, you know, I get where people are coming from, where, you know, they say, you know, she stepped in, she wanted to keep her son from, you know, protesting and whatnot, and just to protect him. So she kind of stepped in. But here we have, I'll use same, you know, thing, a mother of 6, I believe. She's a single parent. And when I saw the video, I'm sure everybody saw the video of her slapping her son across the parking lot, upside the head, down the street, pulling his clothes, yanking him, shoving him, and everything like that. In any other context, if that would have been in Walmart, Target, any other context, people would have called CPS on her. Quick, fast, in a hurry, and her butt would have been locked up or fighting for her kids right now at this point. And so it just amazed me, particularly with, you know, white America. That was the majority of people who praised her for when she acted out, because she said, I lost it. She said, when I saw him out there, I just completely lost it. So in her state of rage, she goes and inflicts violence on her son, right? When her son, in his state of rage, is inflicting violence against a CVS building, everybody got upset. But it's okay for the son to hit the building, or you know, vandalize the building, or express his emotion through being violent towards the building. But when the mom expresses her violence and rage towards the son, then that's okay. Well, we need to step back and say, okay, where did the son learn the violent behavior in the first place? And then why is it being reinforced by white society for the black on black crime? However, when the black child violates or vandalizes a white establishment, then we got problems. So we need to look at the context of this, and then let's look at the mother, because then the mother, had that been any other situation, everybody would have been pulling out their phones and calling the cops on her, but that didn't happen that time. So, you know, I just got a little upset when I saw that. And then the press tour that they all went on, right. You know, I think we saw him on The View, we saw him on the Today Show, we saw him going around, you know, telling this story. I understand, you know, I don't have kids, so let me just put that out. I don't have children. And so I don't understand, you know, how parents feel when they see their kids doing that. I don't know, but I do teach juvenile delinquency. And I got a book on juvenile justice. And I just know that had that been any other context, we would have been looking at that completely differently.
You know, for me, when I saw it, I couldn't even really watch it because I had backflashes. I mean, it took me back. I mean, that was my mom. And what I did get to capture, what I captured of the mother, but the son, what I saw, the son had a mask on.
Yeah, he did.
And so she recognized her son was doing something more than protesting, in my opinion, in a behavior that was kind of safe. Um, so when I looked at it, I'm thinking, okay, she's trying to stop her son from continual negative behavior towards, I guess, being a part of the whole protest. Um, I'm kind of in between because I don't know what the son may have said to the mom to even tick her off more. Maybe he was in front of his friends like, "Mom, leave me alone. Don't touch me." She's like, "Boy, you my son," and you can't say you can't put fuel to the fire and think you're gonna put it out. So I don't know if there was any words or any more conversation. I think the mother, just her natural mother instinct, stepped in and said, "Whatever I got to do to stop my son from getting shot at or getting put in jail, getting hosed down, whatever, what have you. Even you had all of the Coast Guard, well, not the Coast Guards, but
National Guard.
the National Guards. That I think they was gathering about 5,000 National Guards coupled with other officers. And so she probably understood that her son could have been put in jail or anything like that. So I'm kind of back and forth on this, but it did bring back it did kind of give me a backflash on how my mother, I got popped upside the head in public a lot, and my mother didn't care, and it was embarrassing. And he did look embarrassed.
Oh, he was embarrassed.
He looked embarrassed.
He was definitely embarrassed. And yeah, that's my piece on that. I just don't know. I think she did say that she lost it. And so you were talking about, he probably put fuel to the fire. You probably did. And she, in her state of rage, just went crazy on him.
Right. So enough of that, because that's we can go on that all day. We can talk about. So we got Attorney General Lynch meets with the Gray family in Baltimore, and really trying to comfort them, letting them know, hey, look, we're gonna do our best to make sure to do our best to prosecute somebody and find out the truth. Do you think the truth is going to be told in this, or do you think we're going to find out the truth?
Oh, that's a tricky question there. I honestly do not know. Many times when the Justice Department comes in, they don't really come back with anything substantiated. When we've seen in the past with Darren Wilson, they investigated the police department, but as far as Officer Wilson in that situation with Mike Brown, no, there was nothing. I believe they also investigated with the Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman. They investigated with the Eric Gardner case. Everything came back and nothing was substantiated. So having the Justice Department come in and do their own investigation is one thing, but whether or not they're going to come back with some substantiated findings and then change something, that's a completely different thing. And so I think a lot of times they say we're going to do an investigation to appease the public, but really doing something, I don't know, that's still up in the air.
Now, and Maurice, I know you're still there. If there is no conviction, then what? What do the people go? Where do we go from there if there's no conviction on this?
If you don't get a conviction, then you saw the preview to what's going to happen.
I would agree with that.
What do you mean? I'm trying to touch on that a little more, Maurice.
That Monday, if you don't get a conviction, what happened on that Monday will be a preview of what will happen. Because, and I've been saying this over and over and over, is that you have a city of 600,000 residents with 46,000 unlivable units of housing. You have an unemployment rate that is nearly double the national average. You have a public school system that is just really broken, right? And so this is how the other Baltimore lives, right? But on television, the other Baltimore get to see the other Baltimore, meaning that the folks who live on North Avenue, right, they get to see parts of the Inner Harbor and all of that. They see that on television. They don't get a chance to visit those areas, because they know that they're not welcome down there. They get the stares, they get the little comment that makes them feel uncomfortable, and so they don't go there. So they get to experience that Baltimore through media, right? And so, but they're tired, right? These young people are doing what some of the older folks can't do, because the older folks, they have jobs, they have responsibilities, and so they can't really speak out. But these young people are like, listen, we don't have anything to lose. If you look at that Baltimore.
Antoine Bennett.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man. Hey, Mo, I'm sorry to cut you off, man. We got to greet
Go
Antoine, man.
Go for
it. Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, brother. I'm doing all right.
I got Maurice Good on the line with you, man.
Who is him good?
Yeah.
one of my soldier brothers, yes, sir.
And I got Dr. Jones in the studio with me, and she's amazing. No, I mean she says a lot of words I don't even know how to say.
Wow. Okay. All right. Then.
So
all right.
I'm trying to
meet you over the phone.
I got
Nice
my
to meet you
Google
too.
ready. Hey, while we got you on the phone, hey, you in Baltimore? You in Baltimore, right?
I am in Baltimore.
You homegrown. We've been knowing each other almost 15, 20 years now.
That's right. That's right. When we was much younger,
Yeah. What's going down? What's happening? What's happening on the ground level?
Oh man, a whole lot of stuff. I think right now we're dealing with the aftermath of certainly rioting or uprising, however you want to describe it. And so there's some physical rebuilding that needs to take place. But I think one of the most, the disappointing things that's happening is sort of this implosion of the different perspectives from different leaders and of the community and in the community, but sadly adjacent to the community, folks who are speaking into the lives of folks who live in the community, but that they themselves are not neighbors in the community or residents of the community. And so it's a little depressing, and we're working through it. Matter of fact, I stepped out of a very lively community meeting hosted by one of the long-standing organizing groups that sort of cross several boundaries in the Sandtown or West Baltimore region and area, and it's very tense, very heated, and very sort of separate in terms of what's next for Sandtown. I must admit it's a little disappointing because they asked that we raise our hands, so they took a quick poll on how many folks. There's about 50 people in the room are from Sandtown, and I think it was less than 10 that was in the room. But the topic is about Sandtown, and so this has been a huge complaint over the last week since the riots, and it's still going on today. And I do commend folks for giving us the attention and showing us love and respect to caring about what happens next to Sandtown. But if the cry of the people, the cry of the leadership, the cry of those who are affected the most is that the voice needs to be a singular voice coming from within Sandtown, first and foremost. That should be respected. And it's obvious that even the organizing that's taking place, the gathering that's taking place still falls short of this very simple task.
So, and I just asked a question to Dr. Jones and Maurice Good. I asked a question. I said, because there's been 6 police officers been arrested and they are being charged with homicide.
Yes.
And my question, because I'm just like, I got to get to the point, is if there is no conviction, what then?
Well, I think that, and this is certainly from a personal point of view and observation, and I can even say fear, that if we experience a burning and literal destruction pre decision of indicting these officers, I feel like that is a glimpse or a prelude to something potentially much worse if they are exonerated of those charges.
Wow. So
that's just my fear.
And this is to anybody. So what, as a so what do we do now that may be able to cause some prevention, if you will, that if that's the case, how can the blow either be softened for us, or how can we redirect that energy if that's even a possibility?
Well, I think what's happening right now, if I may chime in early, what's important right now is that there's a mobilization taking place. What's important is inside of that mobilization that the visible leadership, long-standing leadership from Sandtown be presented as that voice. One, it was the one thing that was missing prior to the Freddie Gray incident. And so it would instantly, in my mind, show that steps have been made. You know, folks are being taken seriously because the chant is Black Lives Matter, which is an indictment that at some point, you know, we as a community, particularly young folks, felt like their lives did not matter. And that, of course, I think it was Dr. King's partial quote was that, you know, writing, of course, is the voice of the unheard, or something to that effect. So having us mobilize and the community see us mobilizing, becoming one voice, addressing issues that include but go far beyond police aggression and brutality, jobs are being addressed, and trainings are being addressed, and child support is being addressed. All these things that weigh down on the community, and particularly attention being given to the African American males in the community. I strongly believe that so go the men in the community, so go the community itself. You know, and so this has been a platform or opportunity at the very least to make us pause as a community, make us pause as leadership, to think about and strategize around and mobilize around what would be good for our young men in our community. Not talk about them, but include them in this very conversation and have that be proof and evidence that Black lives does matter, and it starts with those of us who are in the community. I think that makes a world of difference.
Wow.
That makes a world of difference. If you start treating them like icons, maybe they'll stop acting like ex-cons. You know? You know, I think it has its place, you know? If you treat them like they are illuminated, maybe they'll stop acting like they're ill-fated. You know, and I think that will be the starting point, or at least the most preventive measures we can take as a community. And this is not just unique to Sandtown. Across this country, you know, Sandtown is on display right now, and we can learn a lot, we can teach a lot, you know, but there are mutual, I guess what I'm saying, there's a mutual effectual responsibility of the police and the community. And so that's what I would say, that hopefully what we're doing amiss and in between time, and in the meantime, will certainly act as a potential deterrent to whatever the verdict is moving forward.
Dr. Jones, I see you bubbling.
Well, I agree with what he's saying, and I also think, you know, part of this is law enforcement also changing some of their policies and procedures, and if there is not a conviction, I think to answer your question, you know, what's going to happen, and I think it was Maurice who said something like, you know, we just saw kind of like a glimpse of what's going to happen. I think part of what's going to soften that blow is if law enforcement, if they're transparent. So in other words, there's this notion of procedural justice, whereas if we know what happens, then that makes us understand it more and be more accepting and receptive to it. So like, I'll give you an example. So for instance, if you pulled over, an officer pulls you over while you're driving, and first thing the officer usually says is, you know, I pulled you over, right? And then you usually say, at least I do, no, I don't know why you pulled me over. And then they go, you know, and they begin to explain it. And so then once they explain why I clocked you doing blah, 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 you're like, oh, did, right? That was me. So that's procedural justice, understanding the process that leads to the outcome. And so what we need to understand and what the law enforcement needs to do is be transparent. If there is no conviction, well, why was there no conviction? What evidence did you have? Did the prosecution prosecute to the best of their abilities, or were there some conflicting information that, you know, confounded the facts of the case or whatever? But long as there's transparency. Now, if there is no transparency and then they just come back with none of these officers are going to be convicted, well, of course, people are going to be upset because they're not going to know how they got to the no conviction. They're just going to look at it as a corrupt criminal justice system, again, not valuing Black lives. We got a problem. But if there was some transparency, if people understand why, well, this was the evidence that was presented, this is how the trial took place, these are what the statements were, these were some of the witness testimonies that we have, this was the extra video that we didn't display till now, and then everybody is able to see, okay, this is what happened that led to this. Well, then we understand why there wasn't a conviction. But if we don't get any of that, if the public doesn't get any of that, well, then they're going to be upset because they're just going to see no conviction. And that's, again, a slap in the face.
Wow.
Yes, I agree, too.
Wow. So, and Maurice, I know you waiting, and I know you got your double barrel loaded. So Antoine, brother Antoine Bennett, and honestly, man, I've been around you off and on for years, and I haven't heard you this passionate for a while. And I understand to an extent. I'm not there, but I understand why this is hitting home for you. It's hitting home for us as African Americans, if you will.
Yes.
But you're saying one voice. If we can, the religious leaders, the local leaders, all of the leaders, people that are in the community, if there can be one voice that speaks the same thing, march the same beat, march to the same beat, that's one thing you really believe that the community needs. And then Dr. Jones is saying that procedural justice needs to be transparent enough so people can understand the process in which happens in cases like this. So those two things make a lot of sense. Show me what the process is, and then we can make a decision together on how we deal with it.
That's correct. It makes all sense.
Okay. Okay. So Mo, I know you're there, and I don't know how much time you got, Antoine or Dr. Jones, but I'm here to 8. You know.
Yes, sir. I think it'd be good for me to get back into this highly volatile, at least verbally.
Okay. Well,
meeting, but you got me for a few minutes. I definitely want to hear my friend, my mentor, Brother Maurice Good.
Mo.
And I'm listening. I'm listening to Mr. Bennett, and I know something that not too many people are privy to, but Antoine had so many opportunities to leave Sandtown, and he told the people that he was needed in Sandtown.
I remember that.
And this conversation happened in 1994.
That's right.
1994. He told people, when people say, "Hey, you have this opportunity, you have that opportunity to go anywhere in the country," because of his powerful presence, what we're hearing tonight, and his leadership. And he said, "I'm needed right here in Sandtown." And so now we fast forward 21 years, right? And he's needed, and his words are so, prolific that absolutely he is needed right there, right now. Thank you, sir.
Wow, man, I'm my mind is all over the place right now because I'm and this is just me, my personal opinion. I'm not sure if the verdict is going to go in our favor. I'm not sure. I mean, when you look at what happened, down south, what was his name? Trayvon Martin and the whole Mike Brown. I'm just not. I'm not totally sure.
This is how I hope it doesn't play out. but this is what I'm prepared for, right? I'm prepared for the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, which is a police, police body and agency. I'm expected the police union to ask for a change of venue on the premise that those officers did not receive a fair trial in the city of Baltimore due to the mistrust of police officers, the anti-police rhetoric, right? I'm expecting for the police union to ask for a change of venue, right? And so that's going to take a while, right? And so as time progressed, right, they may end up getting a change of venue. And if they get a change of venue to a place like Anne Arundel County or a county where, it's more police friendly, then we could end up with a mistrial the first go round. And, and so what's going to happen, it's going to, it's going to take some time. And we absolutely, and, this is just the beginning. State's Attorney Mosley, she's in for a fight because the police union isn't just going to roll over on their office. So it's going to be a lengthy process. Those people who were dancing in the streets because they felt like they got justice, what happened was they got a sense of hope. And I shared this conversation with my mom, who's still in Baltimore, that what she did was she gave the people who felt hopeless, she gave them a sense of hope. But we have to be realistic about that hope because the bottom line is this fight was just the first round. And we got 11 more rounds to go.
Wow.
I would like to add too, they've already, the Fraternal Order of Police, the union, they've already put it out there that they want a special prosecutor for this. So they don't even want Marilyn Mosby to be the prosecutor on this. So they're already headed in that direction.
Wow.
So yeah, I think this is going to be really interesting to see all of this play out.
Wow. And what I'm not saying, this is what I'm not saying, that all police officers or all, people that wear a badge are crooked and evil, killers, if you will. I'm not saying that. But for those that are, we want justice. And I'm quite frankly, I don't know about y'all, but I'm just going to be flat out, just be honest. I'm tired of seeing people not getting convicted for crimes that are committed towards people. If, when black on black crime happens or somebody else murders another person, they get due process. And most of the times they get sentenced to time in prison. Somebody get caught with a few rocks of crack cocaine or some other type of drugs, they can get 15, 20 years or 10, 7 years or whatever with future indictments and no probation or parole, all these different things that happen in the system. But then once the police officers commit a crime, they get due process. I've been to court and I'm not versed really in that verse in this type of conversation, but what I've seen with my own eyes are you don't really get a choice in the matter if you don't have any representation. If you're a person that you got caught selling drugs or something and you go to the county to wait on whether you're going to get like your pre-trial, if you will, and they say, how do you plead? They're telling you, if you plead not guilty, you can do 17 to 20 years. If you plead guilty, we're only going to give you 2 years and 3 years of probation.
Yes.
Right.
So if you don't have any representation, then you already lost a fight. I had a cousin that felt like he wasn't guilty. And they said, if you plead, and I'm paraphrasing, if you plead not guilty, then we're going to give you like 17 years. But if you plead guilty, we're going to give you like 3.5. He pled not guilty and he got like 17, 18 years.
Right.
So, so for me, I'm seeing this a lot. So when it comes down to officers and things of that nature, they get due process.
Well, because they're practitioners. They're agents of the criminal justice system. So of course they're going to get due process. That's the way the system is set up. But let's say there's somebody who is guilty or thought to have committed a crime. Let's say they have crack cocaine or something like that. Well, part of that is many times they don't know their rights and they don't know, hey, I don't have to say anything until I have an attorney present. And then if they get an attorney, they're getting a public defender. And that public defender has a caseload that is ridiculous. So,
50 people.
Right. And so sometimes they don't even know the person that they're defending. They don't even know their name. They just kind of briefly read over the case right before they go up before the judge. And then, they advise them on the best course of action. Oftentimes that is a plea deal. Why? Because the prosecution, they get raises and promotions and bonuses based on the number of convictions that they get. So of course they're going to steer them in that direction. If you have the prosecution working hand in hand with the defense
wait
attorney.
a minute. I'm sorry. So what you just said, for listeners out there that didn't understand what she just said, and I'm PMDIs in this. People in the criminal justice system get commission for putting people in jail.
Yes.
Well, it certainly is
it's the conviction rate. It's the conviction rate.
Machine, yeah.
Say what?
It certainly is a machine.
Wow.
A well-oiled machine.
Yeah. It's profiting.
So so back to the conversation I had, because I can go way left and will forget my way back to the rabbit hole. So the prevention piece, number one voice, right?
Right.
Number two, understanding I forgot that word again.
Procedural justice.
Procedural justice. I learned the new phrase today. Procedural justice. Remember that. Say it 20 times. Procedural justice. And thirdly, there got to be one more thing at least that we can think about. Is there one more thing, or is this it? These the top two things we really need to focus on?
Well, part of that I would also add is today was election day. Hopefully folks went out and voted, because it's these elections, these interim elections, that actually matter.
Wow.
So, right now, I think it was on the ballot was city council officials and members. You need to vote for your city council officials who are going to advocate on your behalf and work to change some of these policies and things like that. So that would be another piece of that.
And that's a whole nother conversation, because you really don't know politicians, most of them, until it's time to vote. Unless you engage in that world. If you engage in that world, then you see them and you get to meet them at house parties and luncheons and things like that. But just in general, the average person, you don't really hear about them until they come on the news. Hi, I'm John Marshall. Vote for me. Show his family, his kids. He kissing kids walking down the street. He had Children's Hospital donating time.
That's true.
So, Antoine, I don't want to hold you up, man, any longer. I know you probably got to go, man. Anything you want to leave us with?
I just think that as a country, we got a long way to go. If you want to zero in on this community and civic partnership and solutions, long-term sustainable solutions in terms of us dealing with real issues that wedge, that serve as a wedge between community trust and their law enforcement, and law enforcement truly valuing the community of which they were hired to protect. I mean, it's a long road as a country, and I think that is a particularly longer road for Sandtown in light of what's going on with the Brother Freddie Gray case. And so, for those prayer warriors who are out there, we certainly need your prayers. And, I had to come sit in my car. I was outside sitting in my car so I can hear you guys, because the ghetto bird, the police helicopters, plural, are circling, which in my opinion is a tactic of agitation. There hasn't been anything that remotely would suggest that folks are going to riot again, or that tensions are boiling over at this point. So I don't know quite why they're in the air. Just to give you an example of, we need your prayers for the city of Baltimore, especially for my community of Sandtown. And I need your prayers because this is a matter that's near and dear to my heart. I run a program that's about 2.5 years old right now, called Men of Valuable Action Baltimore, which is an organization, a nonprofit dedicated to serving in many ways possible the young men who are returning back from these penitentiaries, who are dads and who are high school dropouts, in a way that will help them to look at the needed and much needed self exploration, and also how they can be mutually effectual citizens of their community and of this society. And so, it was not prompted by a Freddie Gray situation per se, but it was certainly the writing was on the wall for us that we had to do something to address the needs of men in this community, and not to the exclusion of the rest of the community. But again, so go the men in the community, so go the community itself. So I need your prayers, and that's about it. We do have a long road ahead of us, and I think that this is a unique opportunity in the storm to really address some things and address it from the inside out, community inside out.
Wow. And just know, and I know you know this, just want to reassure you that the nation is with you all. The nation is with you all, and people are praying across the globe for this particular situation.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
we believe in God's hand is going to move. The hand of God is going to move on this situation. So, man, be encouraged, man. However you need us, man. If something new pops up, man, that's not being televised, man, you are go-to man. And just hit me up. I try my best to keep in touch with you.
Yes, sir.
Just in general as friends and brothers. You my big brother. So, and you one of the
yes, sir.
You was one of the guys I looked up to in the national movement, and just to see see that the place that you're in now has let me know that there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Wow. So I appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Doctor, and Coach Maurice. Talk to you soon. Y'all have a good evening, and I thank you. Thank you for your insights and your intelligence surrounding what we're going through as a country, and certainly as a community here in San Francisco.
Yes, sir. Wow.
Love you, good brother.
Love you too, brother.
Good talking to you.
All right.
That was Antoine Bennett, all the way from Baltimore. I know Dr. Jones, Maurice Good. I mean, what's going on here? What's going on in y'all's minds right at this point?
Well, I definitely agree with him when he solicited the prayers for everybody.
And I called it, because I know that folks are they frustrated, but they beyond frustrated, right? Because when you're frustrated, then you haven't hit rock bottom, right? And so, like Monday, and I really do not want to use that word riot, because I understand what was behind it, and so I don't think it deserved the title of riot. And so I've been using the word demonstration, a forceful demonstration. And so, like, people are they're beyond tired. They're pain, they're the pain and the hurt. They basically saying, listen, we want you to pay attention to us. It's like a small child who, soils their diaper or hungry, and they're gonna do whatever they have to do to get the attention of the person who they identify as the person who's gonna feed them or change their diaper. And so what we saw was like, listen, folks were saying, listen, hear our pain. We're tired of this. We're tired of seeing all of these abandoned houses. We're tired of the school system that is producing more young people to the prison pipeline than is producing to college opportunities, right? They're tired of there's, let's say, a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom house, and there may be 15 folks. There may be 15 folks in a 3-bedroom because other family members have lost their home as a result of gang crime work. And so now you got 15 people in a 3-bedroom house, and and they trying to make do the best way they know how, but the opportunities are very slim to none. And so, that becomes very frustrating. It's painful, right? If I have a child and I can't do certain things for my child, you think that doesn't affect me? And so all of these types of things that people are so focused on a CBS, are so focused on that car where the young man used the traffic cone to put through the windshield. People are so focused on that. Nah, let's pull that curtain back. Let's talk for real. Let's talk about what's really driving those actions.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that young man too. And that's one of the things we haven't talked about today. When he did smash that windshield in, he turned himself in eventually, and they set his bail at $500,000. Now, his bail was higher than all 6 of the officers who are currently charged with and assumed accused of killing Freddie Gray. I think that is just so interesting, and that just puts everything into perspective of how the justice system is administered differently to different segments of the population.
Wow. That's what we're talking about right there. I mean, you said the guy that smashed in the windshield, his bond was set higher than all 6 police officers that got charged for the murder of Freddie Gray.
That is correct.
That's an absolute shame. I'm sorry. That's a shame.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, the young man's his bail was set at $500,000, and the person who was driving the transportation van, his bail was the highest at $300,000, and then it got lowered to $200,000, right? And so the young man who turned himself in at the advisement of his mom and stepdad, they said, you know what, you did something wrong, and show us that you're the man, or you're becoming the man that we hope and pray that you are becoming, and show us that you can do the right thing. And that young man, with the faith of his family, went and turned himself in. Wow. And they said, you know what, we're going to make an example out of it. $500,000 bail.
I hope and pray that he has representation.
The public defender.
Yeah. Because he's still sitting in, they couldn't make the bail. Now, they made the bail for all the police officers because they have the union behind them. So all the police officers have been released, but he's still sitting in jail.
Wow.
Yeah.
So all the police officers have been released.
Oh, yes.
How does that make you feel, Doc?
Well, of course, it makes me feel upset, Okay. You have the police officers who are accused of killing a guy. They're walking free right now. And you have this young man, he vandalized the windshield. Now, and it's not good. We don't want people destroying windshields. But still, in the moment of him saying, okay, I'm going to own up to my responsibilities. I admit I was wrong. Let me turn myself in. He gets the book thrown at him. So what does that do? That tells other young Black men, even if you try to do the right thing, we still going to slap you in the face. So what incentive is that for them to continue to do the right thing?
Wow. So that's why it's so important to have one voice, is what I'm getting. One voice, procedural justice. And Antoine Bennett left us with the prayers, national prayer, international prayer, people that know God and trusting to believe that justice will be served. And I'm not saying, all right, get these guys a death penalty or anything like that. I'm not like wishing seeing them like in the gas chamber. That's not my vision. But I just want to see justice served, and let it be equally distributed down, amongst all, not just the guy that smashed in the windshield. His bail is set at $500,000.
$500,000.
I mean,
yeah, that's high.
That's high. That's high.
That's very high.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So as we digress, right? We got about 5 more minutes. Dr. Jones, Maurice, this is a touchy subject. We didn't even hit on what happened overseas when the young women, I think it was about 200 or some young women released that were actually, and I heard about 214 of them were pregnant. That's a whole nother conversation.
Oh, that's a whole nother show.
That's a whole nother show. But in regards to Baltimore, I mean, I'm loving what Antoine Bennett is doing. I'm loving that people are trying, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see the statistics of a community that's in this type of that has this type of mindset of trying to be one in terms of crime and those sorts of things in that community. I honestly, I think when a community comes together like this, the crime rate goes lower. I believe recidivism is lowered when communities are actively engaged in one voice.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And you know what a lot of people aren't now,
Well, my solution is this. It's very simple. People need
what's your solution?
People need paycheck.
Right.
So a paycheck go a long way.
Right.
Especially a paycheck where after I pay my bills, I still got a few dollars in my pocket.
And child support.
That goes a long way.
Wow. Right. Wow. Dr. Jones.
So jobs and better jobs.
Right.
Raises and bonuses.
Okay.
That does make a difference. That does make a difference because then they have something to look forward to and they have they can have their needs met versus trying to worry about where my next plate, where my next meal going to come from, and then having to struggle to get that. So I would completely agree with them on that.
But again, that starts with one voice.
Yeah.
I think if they can keep one voice and be the example or the template for the nation, if they can keep that one voice to show other urban communities or communities of color that, hey, when we come together, we can make our community better. We can be self-sustaining or self-sufficient, if you will, where we can make things happen in our own area. We can better, we have the power to better our own school systems. We have the power to raise the property value. We have with the power to do so many different things when we have one voice. And my hope and prayer is after all of this, after the dust settles, is that the one voice gets stronger, that it doesn't divide again. Then the religious groups go back into their corners, and then the political groups go back into their corners. And all these different groups say, okay, my job is done. I don't think the job is ever complete. I think everybody has to find a common ground, especially on social justice issues. I'm not telling you to stop being this or being that. I'm just saying when there's one voice, change happens. And that's where I'm at. So
I agree with you.
So man, I don't know, Mo. We're about to get out of here, but man, that was too quick for me. Today was too quick. I'm just now getting hyped. My coffee just now kicking in. Mo, so any closing remarks, man? What do you think? What's the feel in New York? Like, what are they talking about in New York?
Well, New York right now is in a very touchy situation because we just lost another police officer.
Wow.
We lost a Caucasian brother at the hands of an African American brother, and so the tensions are there. So it's tough. This happened over the weekend, and so it's tough. There's been some protesting. They were protesting for Freddie Gray in Baltimore, and then we had this situation happen over the weekend, where the officer was shot, and then he passed away like yesterday, I believe. He passed away. It's tough. And that's why I say, we have to come together, and folks have to live in their truths, though. Everybody has to live in their truths. If people can, squirm a little and be uncomfortable, but if we can tell the truth about ourselves and hear other people's perceptions and other people's truths about us or what they perceive to be true, right? If we can get past that, then we can, change the narrative of what's happened, what was happening, what has happened, to what could happen, what should happen, what can happen.
Wow. And what I can't minimize and overlook, and I gotta say this before I go off the air because I'm just me, that I believe with my whole heart that as we have this conversation about what if, I believe the system is having that same conversation. So how if I was them, I would be kind of preparing for a riot. How do we get more officers? How do we, what's our strategy just in case there's an outbreak, just in case it doesn't go in the favor of the people, if you will. What do we do? Are we going to, so people got to be aware that it's chess, not checkers. And you got to be strategic in your thinking, strategic in how you move in one voice, because it can really get bad for all sides. And we need, officers and things like that. When I call 911, if there's an emergency in my house, I want the ambulance to come. Somebody breaking my house, I like being able to dial 911 and an officer come to see what happened. If I get in a wreck and something happened, I like being able to say 911. Hey, look, hey, I got in a car accident. Da 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 da. You want them, yeah. But I don't. I think this has to be something that has to happen so we can all have one voice in how we are governed by our system. Putting the right people in place. I mean, that's cool, but I still think the system, no matter who's in place, as long as people abide by whatever policies and procedures and the training that they get to be able to govern the communities at large, and not, kind of say, hey, look, he busted out the window during this whole riot, if you will, though this aggressive demonstration. We're gonna give him a $500,000 bond. That don't sit well with me. That don't. So, Dr. Jones, Maurice Good, I mean, we have so much more to talk about on this. And Dr. Jones, I really appreciate you for taking time out to come on the set. And I know you are a busy, busy woman, professor at Holla Dominican right here in Columbus. And before we go off the air, can you just talk about your book just for a moment and where people can purchase your book?
Oh, yeah. So my book is A Critical Analysis of Race and the Administration of Justice. And you can get that on Amazon. You can just do a Google search and find it. It'll pop up. And we talk about in the book many of the things that we discussed today, how race plays a factor in how justice is administered to different people. I guess you can say how people are treated differently based upon race. So it's very insightful, very informative. And then we break it down from police, courts, and corrections. So we look at every aspect of the criminal justice system.
Wow. So, I challenge you, to go out there and get that book. Maurice Good, man, I love you. Actually, I'm looking to be back in New York probably in June, so can't wait to see you all down there, up there. And again, Dr. Jones, I mean, hopefully we can do this again. I feel like you're like a sister, low key. That something is going to happen. I think there's a connection. Something's going to happen in the future, and what you're doing and what we're doing here. Holy Hills Radio .com. Tell somebody about us. Holla at me with Mike Dean. And next week it's going down. And I'm telling you, you don't want to miss out on the conversations that we have here. This is not a religious broadcast. This is a kingdom mindset and real relevant issues and solutions that we try to provide. We try not to be so heavily minded we know earthly good. Although you need to have a balance of prayer and things of that nature, and along with practical and applicable solutions. So listen, we out of here. Sorry I couldn't open up the lines, but listen, we might continue this conversation on Facebook. So if you got any questions, go onto my page Listen, it's going down tonight. So until next time, holla at